back to another episode of The Only Playbook. I am your host, Lucar. We got a full house. I got Shishot and Shobit with me, guys. Week 4 is over. This is the inevitable point in the season that we determine where to pivot with some of these players that are giving us owners headaches. So a big episode with a lot of sound the alarm or staying calm, and then obviously waiver wires as they go into effect. 4 weeks in the books. Shishot, you had an epic matchup. Did end up taking the L, but you scored like almost 140 points, so you can't really be upset about that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I just know who to start, who to not start. All that stuff is a little bit more clear now. Pretty much have a solid lineup in all the leagues. So now at this point, I'm just trying to improve the team by making some trades and picking up some studs on the waiver wire.
And avoid the inevitable out for season quarterback runs into your best receiver's knee, right? Like, let's hope none of our players have that happen anymore.
Dude, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
It's unfortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate that your quarterback makes the mistake, throws a bad pass. The receiver's about to create a fumble to get the ball back.
It's crazy.
And then your quarterback says, nah, bro, I'm going to tackle you in the knees. Shove it. You took the dub despite Tyreek Hill's efforts to make you not. How are you feeling?
Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews, the list goes on. It's terrible. But, you mentioned waiver wire, and I think I just want to say this. I think we're all getting older, guys, and it's time. It's time to change this waiver wire business, okay? This 3 a.m., 2 a.m. stuff, like, it's affecting me. It's affecting my partner. I think we need to get to, like, 6 p.m. or, like, 10 a.m. or something. We got to do something about this. We can't keep – this isn't sustainable.
I think, were you talking, or was that just a bunch of whining? Did I just hear a bunch of babies whining?
Dude, I feel like shit every Wednesday morning. I wake up and I'm just like, I had to, because I stay up at 2 a.m., right? And then after you do your waiver wires, you then assess your team and just keep looking at it. You don't just go back to sleep. It's got to change. We're getting older. We can't do this anymore, guys.
Sounds like the thing that's not getting older is your ability to roster me, bro. So good on you for continuing to maintain that same level. I go to sleep right after some waiver weeks. I'm not even staying up anymore, bro. I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah, last week I was like, none of these players are worth it.
Yeah, this week is a whole different ball game. This week is crazy.
Yeah, no, you're right. This week is crazy. You have to pick your battles for sure. But I'm with you. We might be onto something that we need to change the time there. Yeah. But looking more into that, obviously, again, we have a thick episode. There are so many players that, again, we're ready to make bold decisions, because if you're 0-4, if you're 1-3, and like you said, you have Mark Andrews who you're starting every single week. You have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, those guys that you're starting every week. Like, you don't have laurels to rest on and hope that things change. Your record is not giving you that advantage. So, again, this is going to be a jam-packed episode of players we think, are we staying calm still after 4 weeks, or is it officially time to sound the alarm? And if we are sounding the alarm, guys, is it a straight-up cut? Are we continuing to bench them and hold on to them, or are we trying to get rid of them by trading them as soon as we possibly can? And then, obviously, again, we're going to run through the waiver wire watch list to end the episode. Let's kick it off real quick. Without further ado, the quarterback position. Guys, we've talked about it all year. How shitty has Caleb Williams been, right? I mean, I just bad. He's been really bad. I think we can all come to a consensus that he's been bad. Did you know that Caleb Williams has a higher fantasy finish in 1 week this year than none other than the greatest quarterback of all fucking time, Patrick Mahomes? Did you know that?
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. It's wild. If I can start this segment, man, if you guys want. So I am super worried about Patrick Mahomes. This is a mid-tier offense. They're not scoring touchdowns, and he's not a quarterback that just runs the ball and gets you these upside like Jaden Daniels, right? Anthony Richardson, maybe, or any of these rushing quarterbacks that are giving you points. He's not getting that, and he's not getting touchdowns, and his wide receivers are being decimated. Like the injuries to Rashee Rice, you already had Hollywood Brown. There's just not a lot of options, and then Pacheco as well. So I'm definitely concerned, especially where you drafted him. Like, he's one of the first 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks that you draft, and you may not have a solid enough team for you to make your way to, fantasy playoffs later down the line because of what Patrick Mahomes is producing. Not a QB1 at this point, and it sucks to say.
Like, why are we still talking about this 2 years later? Who even drafts Patrick Mahomes? Let's get real here. Anybody who drafts Patrick Mahomes is likely not going to make it to the playoffs for many, many reasons. But one of them is his just piss poor play so far. Can't really blame him because they're winning games. But at the end of the day, like, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But right now, he is worse than more than half of the people in the NFL in scoring fantasy points. And that's all we really care about at this point.
Yeah, again, we already all appreciate Patrick Mahomes, a football player, but It is, like you said, sure, it's been over a year since he scored 20 fantasy points in a single game. Week 12 of last year was the last time Patrick Mahomes scored 20 points. Week 7 of last year was the last time Patrick Mahomes scored 30 fantasy points. So he's not only even just maintaining the standard of how good of a quarterback he is relative to his ADP, but there's no games where he's exceeding that, right? So the minute you pick up like a Baker Mayfield, a Sam Darnold, some rando off the street, and he outperforms Patrick Mahomes on the roster in your matchup, the advantage that gives that player is insurmountable compared to the guy that's aimlessly starting Patrick Mahomes week in and week out. And I mean, like you guys said, the decimation of injuries, what are they going to do? Xavier Worthy is not a feed this guy 12 touches or 12 targets a game kind of receiver. Certainly they're going to be in the trade market. I don't know if the Raiders are going to trade Devontae Adams within the same division and add to the fact that he's super expensive. I don't know if the Chiefs have the cost for it. What future? Travis Kelce's 34 going on 35. They thought they were going to preserve his body by feeding these other players, and they're all going down like flies. So what about a future outlook for the next 12 weeks gives a Patrick Mahomes owner any sort of like positive outlook? I mean, is there any whatsoever? And if not, you're obviously not dropping him, but you're trading this guy. And what is a realistic trade target or trade candidate for somebody like Patrick Mahomes?
That's an interesting question. I don't even know what you could trade to do that, but you mentioned guys like Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, even Baker Mayfield. Those are all guys I'm rostering and potentially starting over Patrick Mahomes if I have him on a week-to-week basis.
And the end of the season playoff schedules, piss poor brutal for Patrick Mahomes too. He's got to face Pittsburgh. He's got to face Houston defense. Cleveland defense is probably going to figure it out a little bit. And the Chargers defense, which isn't as bad as people think it is. So it's not an easy playoff thing either. So what are you doing? Like, why is he on your team? Find a way to get rid of him right now. It's not a good start. He's got a bye week in the middle of the year in week 6. And the playoff schedule is brutal. So like, at what point are you excited about this? I don't know.
So I think we're all in lockstep that obviously he's not a cuttable candidate, but you are looking to potentially trade him away on the name value still that some people are holding, right? So let's kick it to some other guys that we have on the quarterback list that we're either staying calm or sounding the alarm. And then we can even make this into an exercise to whether you would potentially flip one of these guys we're sounding the alarm for another guy that potentially we may not be as panicky on, which brings us to another quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, another potential top 3 drafted quarterback. He's currently QB9. He had 23.8 fantasy points, I believe, in week 2. He finished quarterback 2. But outside of that, he's looked like complete dog shit. He doesn't have a 20-plus point game in any of the other games. Doesn't even have 18-plus points in any of the other games. The offense is in complete disarray. You have Lane Johnson, their tackle, who's hurt. You have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, who are hurt. Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley are trying to carry this offense. And it's just not happening. I mean, it's shades of basically what we saw the dysfunctionality of the offense last year, but add to the fact that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith aren't even out there. So now you're throwing to Jahan Dotson, and I can't even tell you who the next guy possibly that they're throwing to is. So where are you guys at with Jalen Hurts rest of season? Shishot, I'll let you start off with Jalen Hurts.
I mean, I'm starting Geno Smith in my other fantasy league right now, and that's probably my best fantasy team. So I just don't value quarterbacks as high as maybe most people do. But looking at what the availability is out there and looking at who's really doing good out there and who's not, Jalen Hurts is a mid quarterback right now. He's mid. He's not a must start quarterback. If I have Geno, even Baker available, I'll start them both over him right now, at least until this bye week is over and until AJ Brown is back. Because when AJ Brown's back, it's a whole different ball game. All he has to do is throw it up twice, and that's 2 tutties, and that changes everything. So until AJ Brown's back, I think Devonta Smith will be back. If he has both of those guys back, then it's a whole different ballgame, right? Lane Johnson missing is a big deal, but he's mobile enough to avoid that, kind of scramble out. He's a big scrambler going the right side anyways. So once those 2 monsters are back, I think we change the ballgame. But as of right now, I'm not starting Jalen Hurts. I'm not starting him over Geno Smith, Darnold, or Mayfield.
Yeah, those guys are really good options right now. Darnold may be number 1 or number 2 in quarterbacks right now. But in terms of Jalen Hurts, that rushing upside is still there. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns already in the year. And so it's very tough for me to pick these other guys over him. If I have the chance, I mean, I'm definitely debating that, right? But this is not like a Patrick Mahomes situation where there's just no touchdown. There's only passing touchdowns. There's at least some upside here that you have to be okay with the start. Obviously, if there's other options like you just mentioned, you debate that. But I'm not sounding alarm just quite yet.
So to bring to that argument, Justin Fields is a better start right now than Jalen Hurts even. And you bring up the rushing aspect. He's got 20 yards, 25 yards, and 33 yards, and then one game where he had 85 yards and a touchdown. But those are both tush pushes. It's not like he's even scrambling for touchdowns. So this rushing upside, is that even really an upside, or is that really just all he has? Because the other games he's throwing for 158 yards. The other game where he actually threw for 300 yards, he had a pick and a fumble. So it's like, there's no consistency right now. And as you guys know, I'm definitely afraid of non-consistent things because they're not reliable. And right now, those other guys, every guy we've mentioned, even Fields, even he's more reliable.
Yeah, I agree with a little bit of what you both said. Just because of the quarterback landscape being so just a shit show, I think we're all in lockstep that we don't all fully believe that we're going to get 17 weeks of awesome play from the likes of Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, and even Geno Smith, right? That's not a reality. So I'm with you, Shobit, in the sense that because he still has the tush push, because you have Saquon Barkley who can still progress the offense right now, and he's busted like 2 80-yard runs, one which he was down. Like, you're going to put Fields in more opportunistic situations to get that 1 yard tush push, and it's going to make some of his statistics look better versus you having to bank on at least 2 passing touchdowns from these pass-only quarterbacks, right? They need at least 2 to have a relevant fantasy game. But if Hurts gets none and he gets 1 rushing touchdown, he can almost cancel out the 2 passing touchdowns. So with that being said, knowing how shitty the quarterback position has been, I feel better about Hurts. I feel better about Hurts rest of season because we know the receivers are coming back. We know the tackle is going to come back. We expect the offense at some point to like get some sort of a push. We don't have any of that with the Chiefs. So what I guess the other point I was getting to is if the Patrick Mahomes owner offers the Jalen Hurts owner Hurts for Mahomes straight, and the Hurts owner is dumb enough to do that, I think that is the easiest fantasy quarterback trade I've ever made, and I would make that right now. And there could be people, again, that value Patrick Mahomes more just based on the name, based on playing in a pretty casual league. So that is an easy trade for me, despite how, I guess, inefficient Hurts has been and everything like that. Rest of season, I still feel more confident in Jalen Hurts. Now, Anthony Richardson is another story here. He is quarterback 20 right now. He has had a 26-point game. He was quarterback 4. But again, lo and behold, 4 weeks into last season, he got hurt out for season. This year, not as serious of an injury showed. You can probably shed some more light. Hip pointer is what they said. They said there was a possibility he could have come back if it was, more serious of a game. But the pain tolerance is a real big thing here. If you can shed some more light on that.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's not a big deal. It's just a pain tolerance issue. There's nothing to do for rehab purposes. It's just stretching. But that's not even the main point here. I don't even think the injuries of the utmost concern. Joe Flacco coming in here and just killing it. Andy Dalton out here killing it. What is the limiting factor here? And these are veteran, smart pocket passers. It all comes back to being a quarterback. At the end of the day, you can have a guy who is a robot right out here, but he's simply not ready, right? He's got to adjust. He's got to learn this stuff. So maybe Tom Brady was right after all when he said, maybe let's just let these guys kind of relax the first year and just kind of learn the system. Look what happened to Jordan Love. He came in, just started learning behind one of the greatest. And then he just, when it was time for him to start, he came out firing. So I think we may be watching a lot of that kind of unfold. You guys always see trends in this NFL day and age, running the ball is back and all these, there's always trends happening. And I think we're going towards this trend where maybe just drafting quarterbacks and just throwing them out there is not the best move because they're out here injuring their shoulders, breaking this and breaking that. At what cost, right? That experience is not as worth it as the experience they get in the video room after learning behind these other greats. So right now, I'm not excited about Anthony Richardson at all, even though he did look pretty good before the injury. Before the injury, things started looking a little bit better. But right now, we've lost Jonathan Taylor, right? And Jonathan Taylor's got an ankle injury as well. So I don't really know. He doesn't seem as serious as it looks, but we just don't know. And right now, he's another one of those players that I just can't. I can't throw him out there while there's all these other quarterbacks that can put up at least 18 points.
Yeah, you're right. And he did look good. I was actually kind of nervous when the game started. The throws to Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, he looked like his biggest concern was his accuracy, and he was throwing really good balls out there. But what happens is he just doesn't know to get away from the tackle. And I think even if he does come back, which you're right, Joe Flacco looked so good. I was worried because I've seen the Browns and Steelers and when Joe Flacco did all the stuff last year. So it was tough to see Flacco out there. But I think that with Anthony Richardson, even if he does come back, right, how many games are you going to get with this rushing upside that then he's just going to get injured again. So it's like, it's a very scary play. Yeah. Even if he's your only quarterback, you've got to be having some sort of backup option. If you're nervous about that, I would say you might want to trade Anthony Richardson. I understand that there's an upside with him, but the injuries itself is just too scary for me to go on for 13 weeks of this.
Yeah, and he's turning into a boom bust quarterback, which quarterback is one of the positions where you want to have kind of an established floor or baseline to get a consistent level of production. I've always felt that way. It's not that you necessarily need to reach for a top tier quarterback, but like you said, when you can get 15 points from Baker Mayfield every week, you may not get 30 from Baker, but you're never going to get 9 or 4 or 6. Well, Anthony Richardson has 3 single-digit performances already out of 4. Yeah, he had 27 in 1 week, but 3 under 10. That's losing you weeks. That's losing you weeks where Baker Mayfield's 15, 16 consistently at least keeps you in the game. So again, it's the risk versus the reward, but I'm with you. I'm very worried about Anthony Richardson. I think you're sounding the alarm here, and I think you're sounding the alarm for multiple reasons. The injury concern, the fact that the backup quarterback comes in and immediately just looks amazing in the same offense, similar to the Bryce Young. That is never a good thing. That almost gives, I would think, the coach pause and be like, yo, clearly this guy needs more time to understand what's unfolding, because there's no way a 45-year-old, in full form, like built to your full potential, is going to be better than Anthony Richardson if he maximizes what he can do, right? So maybe sitting is the best thing. So yes, in 3 weeks, could we see, hey, Bryce Young 2.0, we're going to sit Richardson for a little bit. He needs to get healthy. He needs to understand how to not, like you said, get hit the wrong way. Something we were concerned with a guy that's slender as Jaden Daniels through 4 weeks looks immaculate. So clearly you're capable of doing it. There's just a method to how to do it. So I am sounding the alarm there as well. Go ahead.
I do have one non-alarm factor here. There's 2 things. I have some good news and bad news. What do you want first? You want some good news or you want some bad news?
Bad news always first.
Yeah.
Bad news. Playoff Richardson faces Denver defense. There's a Tennessee defense in there, but then there's this is the good news. My bad. This is the good news. The good news is Tennessee defense in the playoffs, Giants defense in the playoffs, and Jacksonville defense in the playoffs. All right. So that's the good news. If we learn and get better, there's a nice path to 40-point, 30-point Richardson, which is why he should not be cut or anything crazy like that. Just let it develop in your bench. The bad news here is if he does sit out for a couple games, he comes back to face Houston defense, Vikings defense, Buffalo defense, and Jets defense. It can't get any worse. So, there's going to be a lot of people freaking this. But if you have an average quarterback like I do in my other league, I'm starting Geno Smith because I drafted Caleb Williams, then knowing this playoff schedule coming up, I might just trade for him because it can't cost too much. There's no way I'm going to be breaking an arm and a leg to acquire him. It's going to be pretty easy. So I think I'm going to try to go get him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's another strategy that if you have the ability, you have the capital, you have a roster spot to potentially sit a quarterback all season, banking on him, being ready for your playoff run, then that is high key, a really big move to make. With Anthony Richardson, I'm going to pivot to the 4th quarterback where we're sounding the alarm, we're staying calm, and it's Kyler Murray. Again, we're seeing a theme here that a lot of these quarterbacks that we thought coming into the season had surefire floors because they run the football, all of a sudden don't have that. And they don't have that for whatever reason, which is kind of what we're trying to unfold. Kyler Murray right now is QB10, so he's still a top 10 quarterback. He had a 28.5-point week where he was QB1. But he's also had 3 games under 15 points, and in each of those, he was quarterback 15 or worse. So in a 12-man league, he's not even borderline startable in 3 of the 4 weeks, similar to Anthony Richardson. Now, you can't even blame game script because the Cardinals are down a lot. What we established about them being down a lot because their defense is bad has come to fruition. But even though they were just getting absolutely their shit kicked by the Commanders, a team that we have already, through 3 weeks, I've been preaching, this is a defense that you want your offensive players to be playing against. So you're down in a game script against the Commanders, who are a pass funnel right now, who let yards go at will, and you can't produce. You can't produce at all. So where are your guys? Where's your level of concern, Shobit, with Kyler Murray? And then let's kick it fourfold. We've had these 4 quarterbacks that we've discussed. Out of the 4, rest of the season, who do you feel best about, most comfortable keeping for the rest of the season, and who do you feel least comfortable about?
Yeah, so with Kyler Murray, I think his QB 10 ranking is baked into where you drafted him, right? You probably got him as the 10th quarterback. And so you've developed your team. And so hopefully that your team is strong enough with all the players that you got that Kyler Murray being mid right now is okay for you. And, the downside here is that his upcoming matchups aren't very good. right? You've got 49ers, Chargers, Jets, and Bears. But once you get into the playoffs, same thing that we talked about Anthony Richardson, he's got a decent matchup, right? So if your team can be strong enough to be able to, live out this average play, because he's got weapons, man. Michael Wilson, one of the great ass rankings, right? Separators, like he's got some good separation score. And then you've got Marvin Harrison, right? So James Conner, a good rushing attack. So you have the things in your team. So if you can, if the Cardinals can find a way to be just decent in offense, and your fantasy team can be average with all the other players that you've gotten, I think you'll be just fine.
So you're going to take long run. You got to answer that question. Who you taking for the long run?
So long run, I'm taking Jalen Hurts. I think that the touchdowns rushing upside is definitely the thing here. And in the short run, man, it sucks to say this, right? It's between Patrick Mahomes or Anthony Richardson. And for me, Patrick Mahomes will be benched, and Anthony Richardson, if he's injured, that's it. That does it for you. Like I've gone through this Anthony Richardson deal. Week 4, he was out, and my season was over. Right. So, I think, Anthony Richardson scares me a little bit more than Patrick Mahomes, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So I am not as worried about Kyler Murray, to be honest with you. He's feeling like he's mid, but he's super efficient. He completed like 72% of his passes. He just didn't have to do that much. And he only had 142 yards and a touchdown. And yes, that's like 5 touchdowns in 3 weeks, which is not good from a fantasy standpoint. But he is facing the 49ers. And guess what? In most years, we'd be freaking out about that. Not this year. Not this year at all, because they've been very vulnerable to deep plays. And who do we have here to make deep plays? The guy named Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think this is a big Marvin Harrison week about to happen. The 49ers have given up about 12 yards per pass, which is a first down every time a ball comes out of someone's hands. So they're really not doing that great. They've lost Greenlaw last year in the Super Bowl, and they lost 2 of their other middle linebackers. That middle of the field is wide open. It's wide open. Nobody is stopping anybody in that area right now. And that's part of the reasons the 49ers have to deviate away from their traditional offense, and they're starting to use a lot. The whole Jennings game happened because of that specific reason. So I actually believe Kyler Murray's going to do pretty good this week. That might be a hot take. I might eat my words at the end of this week, but I feel pretty good. I think for the short run, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray, and then in the long run, I will go with Jalen Hurts. Patrick Mahomes, I think we have what we're going to get at this point. I know what's the dude's name? What's 428's name? Xavier, not Xavier. Worthy. We know what's coming. He's going to get the big plays and get the end arounds, but he can't handle 12 targets a game. He's going to die. He's not going to make it 3 weeks if he gets that many targets. So they have to really, really specialize how they want to use them. And that's not replaceable for this whole Rice situation. So they're going to have to figure something out. I think, Watson's probably going to get an uptick in his play. Kelsey's going to get beat down to the ground. So I think for all those reasons, I'm gonna keep Patrick Mahomes where I'm looking at him, and I think Kyler Murray has a pretty good couple of days. It's time, and then I think Jalen Hurts in the long run is gonna do just fine after he gets his receivers back.
Yep, I'm with you guys in that Jalen Hurts is the top quarterback for me out of those list of 4. If you can somehow trade for Jalen Hurts and trade away any of these other quarterbacks, I would do that. Kyler Murray is second to me as well. I have less concerns with him just because I think situationally, like he should have a floor because of how bad their defense is. Like you said, he can be efficient and still get you 15-ish points. And again, Anthony Richardson is getting you under 10 in 3 or 4 weeks. So I think Kyler Murray still establishes somewhat of a floor, and game script is going to be in his favor most weeks. Patrick Mahomes is my most sus. Like, I want to get rid of this player. He is number 4. I would take Anthony Richardson right now before I would take Patrick Mahomes because you're banking on upside. There is nothing. There is no upside. There is no downside. There is nothing.
So
you're getting nothing with Patrick Mahomes right now. Like, he offers you nothing. So get rid of him. If somebody still loves the name Patrick Mahomes, get rid of him and trade him to that person. But right now, it goes to me, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson, and Patrick Mahomes. So if you got Patrick Mahomes, Arnold, I hope you're listening. Sound that alarm, brother.
He did. He tried to trade me Nico Collins for Patrick Mahomes. I declined that so fast.
No, he did not. No, he did not send that straight up. No, he did not.
Straight up. I no lie.
I just can't with that, man. All right. Enough about the quarterbacks. Let's get into the running backs, guys. Number 1, sound the alarm, staying calm. I'm going to deviate. I'm going to kick this to Shoshot. It is Christian McCaffrey, a player who has played no snaps so far this year. So, yes, in theory, we should probably be sounding the alarm. They continue to give us weird, mixed, circulating information. He's getting better. He's progressing. There's a timetable. And now both of his Achilles. So
Yeah.
just elaborate on what the hell's going on here.
Yeah, this is bad. This is bad news. This only happens to runners. This happens to mainly sprinters and long distance runners, like just people that have been running a lot, especially even when they're training. It's long distance runners. All runners end up having this at the end of their life if they continue to run, even when it starts hurting. So he's at that point. He's maxed out his legs. They're not going to let him do what he wants to do. So this is going to be injuries after injuries, upcoming, sitting down. Like, you don't want this headache. Even if he plays, don't put him on your lineup just yet. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. Even with all the PRP injections, even if going over there and getting blood transfusions from whatever illegal stuff he's doing, nothing is going to fix this quickly. It just can't. Like, I've never seen this happen before, and it's not going to happen now. So if there are players that are willing to, like the Patrick Mahomes situation, if you can dump this off to somebody and get a late season something in return, do it, man, because this is not worth it. This is your first round pick. His value is going to be the highest right now. Unfortunately, it is right now. As sad as that sounds.
That's sad.
Achilles tendonitis is a big deal. It's the biggest tendon in your body. And both of those are hurt in his body. So this is going to take a long time. And if he starts fixing one of them, he's going to be compensating with the other. So the other one's going to start getting worse eventually. This is a disaster. This is a disaster. Stay away.
So Jordan Mason to the moon is what I gathered from that.
Pretty much. Or Isaac Garenda after 3 weeks.
Stop it. No. Keep those Charmanders in their Pokeballs, bro. We don't need a Garendos right now. All right. So where are you at with CMC? Is this a pretty consensus situation to be freaking
I think so.
out?
I'm not going to fight against, the medicinal or, the analysis there. Like, yeah, there's no way I want any part of it. I think if I have him, he's going to stay in my IR spot until
Forever.
a couple of weeks, and then I have to drop him, which sucks because IR spots are valuable. And so
no, but don't get me wrong. Like, if he can come back like week 17 and 18, but even then he's still going to be splitting. After watching what Mason's doing out here, you think they're going to be dumb and just throw out their like biggest asset to get beat up? Like, no, they're going to use him in certain situations, maybe like 12 touches a game, and it might still be efficient. It won't be anywhere near number one overall pick efficient, but he might get you 80 points or 80 yards. You know what I mean? So like, do not expect what you're expecting. So I think it's best to get rid of him and get something else in return, which is more consistent, which is more reliable.
Yep, I agree.
This is why I don't run. I don't want that issue.
Yeah, true that, bro. Give me all the health negatives that come with sitting down too much. I'll deal with all those. Bijan Robinson, a guy that we continue to hype. I said coming into the draft, before he came into the NFL, this is going to be the next best running back in the NFL. He's going to be that way for a decade. And right now, I got to be honest with you guys, I'm a tad disappointed, and I can't quite figure out if Bijan Robinson isn't just as good as the world thought he was, or if there is some weird dysfunctionality that's continuing to happen with the Falcons offense, because it's still not just Bijan, right? Drake London hasn't excelled to where we want him to go. Pitts had 0 again, so he's obviously still the same old Pitts. But like, where's your head at with Bijan Robinson? He's RB21. He was drafted as potentially RB2 or 3 overall. You're obviously not getting that value yet, but is this still something where you're holding on long term, or are you trying to get rid of this man?
Me personally, as a Bijan drafter, I'm not so upset because he consistently gets me like 12 points. like I know what to expect, and I'm just waiting for a boom week. Like, these are bad weeks, right? These are bad weeks, and I'm getting 12 points. So at this point, it's still a little bit too early to pull the alarm, but I'm there. I'm close to it. I'm walking closer to the alarm because Tyler Algier just popped into the game earlier and looked phenomenal. He looked phenomenal. He was carrying dudes from the 3-yard line to the 10-yard line. It looked really good. Looked really good as a runner. Bijan's a phenomenal runner himself, but the way this offense is structured, I don't get it either. There's enough weapons everywhere. We have a quarterback that can get the ball to the players. Maybe it's just bad play calling. Like, that game where they just clearly lost the game because they ran a outside run in a 4th and inches. Like, I don't know. And then he said he'd probably do it again because he trusts his running back. So as of right now, I'm looking at a sus coaching situation where the right calls, right plays aren't being called for the right people. Like, throw deep to Drake London. What is going on? We haven't seen one bomb. We're seeing deep, like mid ends. We're seeing up the middle runs with Bijan. We're seeing Tyler Algier getting the screen passes. It's like, what is going on?
Ray McLeod is more involved than Drake London and Kyle Pitts right now.
Right.
The good thing is there's a lot of good matchups coming up. We got the Buccaneers, got Carolina, got Seahawks, got the Buccaneers again, and then you got the Cowboys. So, if the offense can get it together, I don't have any stake in Bijan Robinson, so I'm not there in the trenches like you are. So, but I think that you kind of just hold and hopefully these matchups come into fruition for you.
Yeah, I think the stay calm, sound the alarm is just relative to ADP. But like you said, it's hard to be upset. Again, when we look across the board, offense is down for every skill position. So when you have a guy that's putting up over 10 points, it never looks ugly on the stat line. So it's hard to get upset about it. So I'm with you on that one.
Do keep in mind he's got a hamstring issue himself, and that's why Algier was out there so often. So that's why I'm getting closer and closer to the alarm, because as you guys know now, hamstring injuries, you just never know. You could destroy your season. It could just be, it's going to limit him in one way or another. So
Travis Etienne, no stock for me in this man either, but right now he is running back 26. He had 13.3 points, his most points in any given week. The most amount of snaps he's played in a game is 72%, and that was week 2. We saw some pretty explosive Tank Bigsby runs. I was rather impressed. And it seems like we're seeing a lot of that where the starter of said running back team is supposed to be the bell cow, very inefficient. And then the limited work that the backup gets, he looks spry, he looks fresh, and he looks like he should take over this job. Is this potentially a Rachaad White, Bucky Irving type situation? Or are you guys still in a situation where you're holding on to Travis Etienne comfortably? Because let me kick it off with Travis Etienne real quick. He's never been a player that I've personally gravitated towards simply because I never thought that his stature demanded that he would get the workload or touches that potentially a second round running back, same area you're getting like a Derrick Henry, a Saquon Barkley. I never thought he would get that many touches to warrant that level of pick. Now that's where his ADP went. So for people that did draft him there, you're obviously disappointed in the production so far. And the fact that this offense is a shit show. Trevor Lawrence looks bad, like borderline, getting to bust potential with this man. What's a positive outlook for this team, for Travis Etienne specifically, where Tank Bigsby looks spry and could continue to eat into his work? Shobit, do you have less concerns with Travis Etienne than I do potentially?
His stats are so poor right now that he's a guy that I would try to go out and buy, because if I think that the Jaguars offense can start rolling and be better, I'm expecting a guy that can give me 50, 60 yards a game, but then a touchdown as well, right? That's what we're used to seeing with Etienne, and that's what I'm kind of banking on. So this is actually a guy I'm trying to go out and target. His efficiency compared to Tank Bigsby doesn't look as good, but they're not as terrible either. 4 or 5 yards per carry as well is what you get with Etienne. So it's just that once you get into the red zone, there's always a chance that he could get the ball. And so I'm actually trying to go out and targeting Etienne.
That's brave. That is very brave. I'm going to have to give you a clap for that one, because that's brave as hell. Because the other guy is averaging 8.2 yards per carry, and it's not even off of 2 or 3 rushes. This is 21 attempts through 4 games, 21 attempts, and the dude's averaging 8.2 yards per carry. He looks better. He's a more powerful runner. He even looks better in the open field, and he doesn't have a shoulder injury. Etienne currently left the game for a little bit last week because of a shoulder injury. And I'm looking all over the internet for what's actually going on with the shoulder. I don't have enough information, maybe because it's just Tuesday. But when your backup is creeping up, getting more touches, and now you suffer an injury, and the backup's bigger, faster, stronger, it's scary.
The tank.
It's scary.
Yeah. When the backup is built like a tank and his name is also Tank, you got a double whammy. And at this point, you need to get rid of Etienne everywhere, sell the farm. But no, I think you're bringing up a great point. We're continuing to see this trend, and it may never be that these young spry guys get that, they're the starter now, they're going to get 75%. But what it at least means is that everybody is seeing the backup look better than the starter. I think clear as day, one guy is running it at 4 a clip, same offensive line, same play structure. The other guy's running it at 7 a clip potentially, right? So I think if anything, he's going to eat into the starter's playing time, whether it's potentially incremental 5-10%. But that 5-10% for somebody who's already not super efficient is massive. That's a big chunk that they need inefficient touches to continue to manufacture points. And if they're not getting the touches, then that's where you start to fear. I think I'm also on the opposite side where I'm not necessarily trading for him. I'm looking to trade him away, despite the fact that I don't know that his value is the best right now. But if he has 1 boom week, 2 boom weeks, something like that, he's not a player that I feel super strongly about rest of season that I want to continue to hold. So maybe wait for 1 boom week where he has a massive outlying productive week and trade him away.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him before that happens. So I have like an RB3 on my team.
100%. It's all about tactical strategy based on your roster construction.
Right.
So I get it. Let's talk about Josh Jacobs real quick. Josh Jacobs for the Packers. He is RB27. He's been pretty efficient, surprisingly, as a runner, but he plays for the Packers. And despite that insane workload he got 1 week in week 2, he's falling under this Matt LaFleur situation where he loves to use more than one running back. Emmanuel Wilson's touches continue to go up. Marshawn Lloyd got hurt, but I don't know that when Marshawn Lloyd comes back, Wilson's going to reduce his touches because he's looked pretty good. But this is a situation that Aaron Jones used to be in all the damn time. And Aaron Jones made up for it by being an incredibly efficient runner, running at like 5.5 a clip, and he was a great pass catcher. Jacobs, historically in his career, has never been an efficient runner. Could that change? Maybe, but he's never been that historically. He's a decent pass catcher, but I'd argue that Aaron Jones is a better pass catcher. You guys are seeing Emmanuel Wilson like bring this burst of energy onto the field right now. Where is your level of concern with Josh Jacobs? Are you holding? Are you trading for? Or are you trading away, Shishot?
I'm not going to go out and get him just because I know how this offense works. But there's enough to know that the game script really played a big role in last week, right? It's not like Jacobs was bad. Jacobs is a good player. Like overall, if you're talking about all the running backs in the NFL, he's in the upper echelon of running backs. So he's closer to Saquon than he is to like the worst player. You know what I mean? Like he's got those qualities, those tendencies. Yeah, Rachaad White was a one-time thing, just jumped on the wagon, it worked out well. So, what I'm trying to get at is last week, if there's somebody like Danny hates Josh Jacobs. I don't know why. I think he's been hurt in the past, and that's always a thing. That's always a thing in fantasy football. So he's like, "Oh, Josh Jacobs sucks," and I'm like, "Let me deal with this problem. Give me this problem because the Packers are just going to get better. They've been destroyed with injuries early on. They have a solid defense. They're coming back in games. It's not like this is a bad offense. They've just been in this odd game script situation for these couple of losses they've had where they just couldn't run the ball. They didn't get the opportunity to run the ball. So I think I'm closer to going to get him than I am getting rid of him, but I am more on the side of let's just stay and see how things go because I know this Packers offense is going to do well. It's one of the more confident things I'm in. Not as confident as knowing the Commanders offense was going to be amazing. That was a huge hit on my part. But this is close. This Packers offense is very, very good, and I want every part of that running back if I can. But however, remember, it's LaFleur. So I'm not going to just dump everything to go get this running back. It's not like a Derrick Henry situation, but I'm not going to go, get rid of him either. So I'm staying put right now.
Yeah, I think last game was rough. I mean, Minnesota had like 28 points and 28-3, something like that in at halftime. So change 28-0. Wait, no, it was
7 because of the muff at the end.
7. Yeah. So, it was just a tough sledding for the Packers. I think better days ahead. Rams and Arizona Cardinals are coming up. So should see better days. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm holding as well.
Yeah, I like Josh Jacobs' situation as well because of the offense. I think they're so creative. I would want pieces of Matt LaFleur's offense. We're going to get into more receiving weapons on Matt LaFleur's offense in a little bit here. But I just think what they need to do is Josh Jacobs was probably a 3rd round, 4th round pick at worst. But he's going to have to play like an efficient Aaron Jones, where Aaron Jones consistently was a top 10 running back despite never touching the ball, despite never having like 20 carries in a game, right? And so Josh Jacobs, to match his ADP where he was drafted, possibly has to stay that efficient. So I just don't know that he's ever going to fulfill his ADP simply because we see the emergence of another running back, and that emergence of the running back now probably makes LaFleur feel more at ease to continue to navigate and operate like how he does, where he has 2 running backs in his system. 2 whites. Let's talk about these 2 whites real quick. Rachaad and Zamir. I don't know which one is worse. Probably Zamir. Rachaad White is running back 34 right now. Zamir White is running back 56 right now. Rachaad White has had a double-digit performance. He had 12.6 points, but he's been incredibly inefficient, which is something we know. He has 0 touchdowns on the season. Bucky Irving has been emerging. Shishot's been calling this man's name. And again, another situation where the backup looks incredibly better every single time he touches the ball compared to the starter. Zamir White, a little bit different. RB 56. This man has not eclipsed 5.3 fantasy points in any given game so far. He's only played 63% of snaps as his highest in week 2. And we know how bad this Raiders offense is. And they have Alexander Madison, which you can do with that information whatever you want. The whites, where are we at with the whites? I'm just lumping them together because I think I don't want either one of them. But do you feel differently about one versus the other enough to not lump them together?
They hate white too. Listen to that.
They hate white too. Yeah, no, not whites. Oh man, I've got Zamir White stock, and I mean, this sucks. It really does. I don't know what to do. I continue to start him, and
You start him?
I do because I don't have any other
Damn.
choices. I have to continue to start him, and I'm heavy on his PPR wide receiver, like heavy wide receiver in this PPR league. So, yeah, man, it sucks, and he's as good as this offense is going to be, and this offense is terrible as well. They might lose Devontae Adams. You're just not seeing the red zone opportunities either. There's just nothing to like about Zamir White. So, it sucks. Nobody wants him.
Yeah. So that's where the beauty lies. Get this. Okay. Get this. So when you have an offense that has no identity, right? They're still figuring it out. So I'm not going to drop one of my really good backups to pick him up off the waivers if he's available. I also haven't dropped him because if I drop him and I see somebody else pick him up and get 40 points in a random week, it's going to break my heart. It's probably going to break my heart more than anything else. So I'm just going to hold on, figure out this Raiders identity, especially after this Devontae Adams things is a little settled, right? There's some serious turmoil going on. I sense some quarterback changes happening. Some drastic shit's about to go down. So until that clears up and I have the capacity to hold on to Zamir White, I think I'm just going to keep him there, right? Because I went out and reached up much higher than most people to get him just because, the coaches in the offseason were saying, yeah, we're going to run this guy to the ground, blah, blah, blah. A lot of positivity. They didn't have an identity at that time either. The end of the season, last season. So I just thought a lot of that was going to happen, but this team just doesn't know how to play football. So you can't establish the run if you don't know how to play football. So all that just to say, I'm going to hold on to him just because I have him in one league. There's not much good options out there. I've already picked up all the prime backups. There's not much left. So I'm going to just hold on to him and see what this identity is. I'm going to give it 2 weeks. I'll give it 2 weeks, even less than, the tight end situation we're going to talk about. I have a much shorter leash there. I'm going to hold on to him for 2 weeks, see what happens. If they have this identity that is against the Zamir White thing, then I'll just release him out into the wild like Butterfree. Just let him go. But if for some reason he gets another, good chunk of the carries and doesn't do anything with it, which is more likely to happen, then I'll cut him. And I won't even feel bad about that because I gave him my best shot. You know what I mean? So we'll just see what happens.
You gave him a chance.
Yeah, right.
That's all you can do. And I think, again, another situation where roster construction is important. Like you said, you reach to take this man. So you have probably a situation where you either have to start him or his draft capital was so high that it makes it harder for you to just cut him 4 weeks into the season because there's a long season left, right? But let's talk about if I drafted him as my third or fourth running back and he's putting up 5 points a game and we're in a 4-bench league, I would probably look at a situation where I'm dropping Zamir White and I'm trying to pick up, Kareem Hunt or somebody who has rest of the season potential that I see that is going to overtake what I think Zamir White could do the rest of the season. Rachaad White, do you guys want to add anything on that? I think my best situation or strategy for if you're a Rachaad White owner is look for who has Bucky Irving and see if you can trade it to that guy. Yeah, so then you let that guy handle both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, get back whatever you can, because I think long-term, the best case you're going to get is they're going to continue to split. Worst case is eventually Bucky continues to eat into his work. So that's all I'll say on Rachaad White. Let's kick it into the receivers real quick. Shovit, your boy, Tyreek Hill is number one on. Are we sounding the alarm? He is wide receiver 28. He did have a 22.5-point week. I believe that was potentially with Tua. Yep. Double-digit targets just once. More than 4 catches just once. More than 100 yards just once. Only 1 receiving touchdown. And obviously we know why. The quarterback situation there is a nightmare. They are saying early speculation, best case scenario for Tua is week 8 return. But it's coming back from not an injury that, like Shishok can probably allude to, has a concrete timetable. And it's like, this is when they get better. This is when you rehab. It's a concussion, which who the hell knows what is going to happen long-term, specifically with the whole world shedding some light and seeing the spotlight that how it happened and how it's happened multiple times. So are you sounding the alarm? I don't believe anybody's in a world where you're cutting Tyreek Hill, but you have offered me Tyreek Hill for DJ Moore. So if that gives the listeners just context into the idea of your brain, just speak more onto where your thoughts are at with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting anything in terms of a weekly production, right? Like 10 points, right? Over 10 points, I'd be okay with it. And I'm not getting that. And I'm seeing a guy like DJ Moore whose offense is kind of, I like the outlook of DJ Moore, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But the good thing about this is that there were 3 very important throws last game that didn't connect with Tyreek Hill, which could have been either a big gain or it could have been a touchdown, right? So any of those throws becomes a catch, then it's a whole different conversation, and I'm okay with it. So I think that moving forward, maybe some consistency in the quarterback situation. Tyler Huntley, and it's his first game, right? And so maybe that I am optimistic, but if I can get something for it, so I can just get to the playoffs, I am, seeing what my options are there.
Did you actually offer that? Is that already been done? The offer?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just wondering. Yeah, I mean, I'm just I did this. I mean, like, if I'm a Tyreek Hill owner, you've created your season. This is it. You're going to hold on to him and wait for Tua to come back, because right now his value is at its lowest, right? We're getting DJ Moore, who just kept going through the draft, and Sweetcar was like, all right, I'm going to maximize this and get it. Like that versus you going to get Tyreek Hill. There's some serious differences in that, those decision making, and to make that after a week 4 decision to try to get rid of him, I'm a little surprised, to be honest. I would still like to grab Tyreek Hill. I think this may be the most go get this player for a very, very low value thing out there right now. I don't know if there's anything better than going to grab Tyreek Hill for absolutely nothing. Like, who would you, out of my players, not that I'm going to offer it just because I'm going to kind of just like marinate these guys down here, but would you do Deontay Johnson for Tyreek Hill in this situation?
No, I would not.
Right, exactly. So at this point, you're still in a positive game script most of the time with your roster that you have. You're playing against a couple of guys coming up who you may be winning against. So if you take those dubs and you still have Tyreek Hill not producing, then that kind of comes back to be successful.
That's the thing. If I trade Tyreek Hill, right, and Sukar, your team's already doing so well. Once you get to the playoffs and Tua's back, like, you're unstoppable. Like, there's no question about it, right? So I'm trying not to make that trade, but I'm also trying to see what all I can get from it.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, Shisho, because as somebody who I think I would be excited to receive Tyreek Hill on that trade, and this is a situation where I could easily be like, no, fuck that, dude. Like, I would never do that, and then try to finesse you into it. But the reality is, I would hold on to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's upside is so immense that he is probably the only player in the NFL that can win you a week by catching one pass, or that can be relevant by catching one pass. Sure, Xavier worthy, blah, blah, blah. Speed is not the only thing that Tyreek Hill possesses, right? Tyreek Hill possesses the ability to get a negative 10-yard screen and turn it into a touchdown, because not just of his ability to just be fast, but everything else. He is a different specimen. So I think in a world where you're searching for somebody to give you a floor because Tyreek Hill's not even offering you 5, I get that, because you're a Tyreek Hill owner and you're emotionally invested in this player and you need to continue to stay afloat. But what you're doing is you're trading Tyreek Hill away in a situation where most people are not going to value Tyreek Hill the way you are. The fact that you offered me potentially DJ Moore, I would think about that, because I also am somebody that came into the season really high on DJ Moore. But right now, because of my roster construction, DJ Moore is my number 4 receiver. If I go the rest of the season with DJ Moore not playing a snap, and Tyreek Hill does the same thing DJ Moore does for me, rot on my bench, but then somehow Tua comes back, like you said, in week 8, all of a sudden I'm running out, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, JJ, and Tyreek Hill. So roster construction, and if you drafted Tyreek Hill and you're looking to send him away, or if you're somebody that's looking to go out and get him, makes a huge difference in this situation, because not everybody has the luxury to probably be, 2-2 with Tyreek Hill. Some people could be 0-4. And if you're 0-4, you're probably more likely to trade away Tyreek Hill because you don't have enough time to wait. But because you're 2-2, because the majority of the roster of the league is 2-2 right now, we're only 4 weeks into the season, I would continue to hold on to Tyreek Hill, because to be honest with you,
Nico Collins, baby.
Nico Collins has been your Tyreek Hill. If you offered me Tyreek Hill for DJ Moore, I would probably hit the accept button pretty quickly, to be honest with you. So that's where I'm at with Tyreek Hill as well. I think he's not somebody that you should just lowball somebody else, because this is not Jalen Waddle. This is Tyreek Hill. All right, so real quick, let's run through these a lot faster. Garrett Wilson, he is wide receiver 43. Another year where the potential, whatever we thought, this Devontae Adams 2.0 situation with Aaron Rodgers, it's not happening. He had 11.8 points, is the most points he scored. His best game so far is 6 catches for 60 yards. Clearly, we've seen just visibly on plays, the chemistry is not there. The back shoulder timing is off. Every time Rodgers throws a ball somewhere, it feels like Garrett Wilson is not there. So, and Rodgers continues to defer back to his best friend, Alan Lazard. So with all that being said, you drafted Garrett Wilson probably end of the first round or first part of the second round. He is wide receiver 43. For as how unplayable you potentially feel Tyreek Hill maybe, Garrett Wilson could be more unplayable, although I think week to week he's probably performing a little bit better minus that one big week Tyreek had. Shoshos, are you trading away Garrett Wilson? Has this allure on Garrett Wilson, the Devontae Adams 2.0, has that ship officially sailed for you?
Yeah, it's done. And it's not even really Garrett Wilson's fault. I think it's Aaron Rodgers' fault for not practicing and getting chemistry developed with his teammates. I don't want any part of Garrett Wilson right now. There's clear cut, like this weird energy Aaron Rodgers has where he's like little brothering him a little bit too hard here. And he's just like, stay away from my lane. Like I'll throw to Lazard if I have to. In what world is Lazard better than Garrett Wilson? Like, let's get real here. And there's just some weird, this is going to be a ship that's going to sink here very soon. There's going to be a lot of implosion. And there's a chance Garrett Wilson might get traded for Devontae Adams here. That's not out of the vicinity. And if that happens, then Jesus Christ, forget Garrett Wilson's career.
Yeah, I mean, I think better days are ahead. I think he's definitely a trade target. He's seen targets just not resulting in what we want in fantasy. They play the Broncos. There's that PS2 thing going on as far as Garrett Wilson. Why he may have not performed as well. So it's just got to click, and I'm just gonna wait until it does. And until then, I'll either try to go out and get him, or I'll just hold him for the time being.
I've had a lot of people try to take me off of the Garrett Wilson stance and like deviate from the fact that he's not like a top echelon elite wide receiver. And there have been plays where I've been like, man, I really like, there's been a couple of toe taps on the sidelines that Garrett Wilson has not made this year that I'm like, the elitist of the elite receivers should be making that play. But I'm still not continuing. I'm still not taking myself off of this Garrett Wilson train. I do think he's like an uber freaking talented wide receiver that, if you don't have 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers trying to little brother him and make him understand shit, I think his talent is equivalent to a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football. I still feel very, very strongly about that. So I do think, like you said, Shobit, better days are ahead. And I think right now, if you trade for Garrett Wilson, you can probably get rid of some like pretty shitty player that, I don't know, like Josh Downs, maybe like some Michael Pittman Jr. Like I know those guys who maybe have equally not the same level of production, but at least have like a spike week that somebody who's trading for it can be like, at least this guy has the ability to get me 20 if I need it on any given week. You might be able to trade him away for somebody like that. And in that situation, I still would go out and get him because I'm banking on the talent. But like you said, the energy around the Jets, I mean, what the hell was that? You lost to a team that threw for 60 fucking yards. Like, We had the Mac Jones 3 passes last year or 2 years ago, and that was like crazy enough. But for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, with Breece Hall running it 10 times for 4 fucking yards to like, I don't know. Yeah, so I'm with you. Dysfunctionality. In a season in fantasy where injuries have been crazy, guys continue to underproduce, big names continue to underproduce. Like what you want to continue to try to hold on to is like players that either are consistent or players that you can potentially hope have some sort of a positive future outlook. And right now, because of how bad he is production wise, but how good the player is, that's my positive outlook for him is at some point that's going to meet in the middle. So that's the only really glass half full I have for Garrett Wilson. 2 guys behind him, Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, I want no part of Brandon Aiyuk. I think the offense already has a lot of mouths to feed. We've said that every single year where every week one man is the odd man out. But right now, Brandon Aiyuk doesn't even look like he's practiced all offseason, which he hasn't. And it's so visible on the playing field. Like he can't separate. Juwan Jennings is creating better separation than Brandon Aiyuk is. He's dropping passes. He's showing up to practice in wrong shorts. Like there's nothing going right for this man. That why would you want to go out and get him other than the fact that you still believe in the talent and the reason he got paid $30 million. And you hope at some point what you're paying for him right now, if you traded for him, is going to be, nickels compared to what he's worth in the future. Shove it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope someone drops him, then I can pick him up. And then
Shova's just going to pick up all these guys, and hopefully just one of them just.
Well, I mean, at this point, you have to, right? With Tyreek, I'm in a different situation. I'm just trying to find someone to keep up for Tyreek Hill. But for Brandon Aiyuk, week 10, if he gets his shit together at week 10, you can see some, like, what are you banking on? You're banking on touchdowns, right? And, like a decent game. And this Shanahan offense throws the ball enough times for their highest paid receiver, one of the highest paid receiver, to get targets. So I'll try to go out and get him for the cheap if I can, or if someone drops him, I would love to have him on my bench. I would keep him there until he finally shows up.
Yeah, solid bench stash. Ricky Pearsall's coming in very soon too, and he's going to be a target monster. He's just a reliable PPR guy. He's just always been like that in college, and I think he's going to continue to be that. So that's just going to eat up more of Aiyuk yards. But yeah, if somebody drops him, he's going to sit in my bench and watch things happen.
Last receiver, DJ Moore, wide receiver 35. We touched a little bit about him. Best game, 11.2 points. I think if he continues that second route, he has 2 touchdowns this game, and he just completely cut off and short-circuited on that route because he didn't think he was going to get the ball, and that was unfortunate. But he's been bad. Wide receiver 35. His body language, I think, has been the worst. Like, rather than the production, is every single time the ball is overthrown, the ball is not caught. It's so visible. I've never seen somebody wear a helmet and their face is more like their emotions are more visible than DJ Moore's body language. Every single time there's an incomplete pass or Caleb Williams makes a bad throw. So the body language is the biggest thing that's turning me off to DJ Moore, but he's still getting targets. Like, the shitness of the offense still is designed that the funneled singular most targets go to DJ Moore. So at some point, if we're hoping Caleb Williams, this generational prospect, potentially figures shit out, even like 20% to what he's figuring out now, do we think that's going to uptick in DJ Moore's production enough to make him relatively viable fantasy option? I'm still holding on to DJ Moore. I still like the targets. I still like the amount they use him. It's just the fact that the quarterback and him aren't on the same page and the quarterback isn't as accurate as he needs to be. Do you guys share the same sentiment, or are you getting rid of DJ Moore, Shishot?
I think I'd start him as my wide receiver 3. I just construct my roster in a way where I just have like people that hog like 30% of their team's targets. And this is a Texans situation, right? Like, we got Keenan Allen there. Swift kind of catches some passes out of the backfield. Rome Odunze's killing it now all of a sudden. So you are going to have some weeks where Moore may not get the touchdowns that the other guys may get. So that's the only downside, but he's a solid player. And if any of those guys go down, which they probably will, because there's a guy named Keenan Allen who can't stay healthy, then we're talking wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 numbers. So there's out of all the guys we've talked about so far, I'm the least worried about DJ Moore.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to give, Caleb Williams time. I think he's a rookie, and once he gets the offensive going, I think he'll be fine. I actually like that he's getting upset because he has a right, to get the ball to where the ball needs to be. And so I think that it doesn't put me off. I think that just kind of helps the team, actually. And so I like it. I think if the Bears offense can improve, then DJ Moore will be a beneficiary of that. We saw it with Fields, like top 10 receiver when Justin Fields was a quarterback. Like, there's no reason he can't do this with Caleb Williams.
The tight ends probably the craziest position in all of football this year. Mark Andrews, tight end, 41 back-to-back weeks. Back-to-back weeks with 0 fantasy points. Back-to-back weeks with 1 target. Back-to-back weeks with less than 40% of snap participation. I'm dropping Mark Andrews. I'm sorry, man. I'm dropping him. I am in the dropping boat because there aren't good tight ends. So for you to think like in one world, you could be like, yes, there aren't good tight ends. So do I want one of the most talented tight ends to eventually figure shit out? Certainly. But to figure shit out, you have to be on the field. Like 40% of snap participation. Like, if you get the ball every single time you get like a snap is called, that's probably still not good enough when you're playing 40% of the snaps. So he's not on the field enough. There aren't plays designed for him. The one throw that he got, he probably was surprised because the ball never comes his way, so he dropped it. So I am dropping. I say this because I am managing Sommit's team, and she has Mark Andrews, and I freaking picked up George Kittle, but because he was questionable, I was like, you know what? Like, he could just like have a hamstring thing, like be hobbled and not play. And I started Mark Andrews again, and he got 0 points, and I'm pissed. And so I want to drop Mark Andrews. Shobit, you are a Mark Andrews owner as well, so like, let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to what coaches are saying. Jim Harbaugh's like, there's gonna be some games that he goes off, and with the way, like, it's Mark Andrews with 0 points or Colby Parkinson with 4 points, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is the week, right? So at this point, I just kind of have to keep him there, unless I get someone like a Tucker Kraft or something like that, right? Someone that gets me more excited. Right now, there's nobody in free agency that I'm excited about. Maybe I'm even more excited about, Taysom Hill. I was more excited about Taysom Hill than I was with Mark Andrews, but I got to keep starting him in hopes that Jim Harbaugh is right and one day he'll go off.
Oh, dude, don't do that. Just put him on your bench. Just wait for it to happen. Just wait for it to happen. I want to see some points in that section for you. I feel bad. Back-to-back weeks. He's just too good of a blocker. Anytime he comes in, he's blocking for Derrick Henry. So it's like, but yeah, that's really it. I also have to go because I got to pack. I got to go on this flight tomorrow morning, and I got to go. But you guys take care. See you guys tomorrow.
Sounds good, man. See ya.
Bye.
Yeah. So let's do this. Okay. So you own our Andrews. I technically own Andrews. I'm dropping Andrews because I think there is better free agents. Like you said, if you can get Tucker Kraft, Taysom Hill destroyed his other side of his ribs, so he's probably not going to play for a while. But I would take Taysom Hill as well. There is who's the backup for Gesicki? It's a new guy. The backup for Gesicki on the Bengals, I would take over Mark Andrews. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's a young player, but look him up. I think when you've seen a player for 2 out of the 4 weeks, he's put up 0 points. 50% of his games he's played, he has no production. I know his name is Mark Andrews, but what's the reality that he has such a boom week that you're like, damn, that's why I kept him. Do you think Mark Andrews right now at 40% snap participation can put up a 30-point week, knowing that Derrick Henry runs the shit out of the ball, knowing that Lamar Jackson runs the shit out of the ball? Do you think that's a realistic possibility right now?
I mean, it's not looking that way right now, it's just maybe he's injured. Maybe there's something that's bothering him, or he's just used as a blocker, and that's just the way this offense is right now. But it's the fact that there's not that many options out there that I'm just still kind of hoping. But it sucks. It sucks to be in this situation. 2 dud performance in a row. But I'm holding personally. I know you're dropping in hopes that this thing figures itself out.
Yeah, its situation is different. I'm dropping because I was able to somehow pick up Kittle because somebody dropped Kittle. So that's why I'm dropping. Yeah, that's why I'm dropping. But if you're in a situation, Samichaz's league is like an 8-man league. So that's all another story. But for you, unless you're getting Tucker Kraft or, honestly, right now with tight ends, that's probably it. And I want to say, I picked up Pat Freiermuth and I started him in both leagues. And he got the touchdown. And I didn't know Pat Freiermuth's the only tight end in the NFL this year that I think has 4 catches in every single game.
Oh wow! Okay, that's impressive. Low key, you never.
Low key because.
Yeah, he did get the touchdown for the first time in 14 games or something crazy like that, because he hasn't been he's a red zone threat and he hasn't been getting that. But I didn't know about the 4 catches a game. So Freiermuth is a better start than he is. I'm hoping at some point Darnell Washington becomes something that he had a really good showing. He was able to truck a guy and then jump over him. He's very athletic. So I'm hoping that he kind of becomes something for the Steelers and maybe I can get him.
Yeah. Kyle Pitts is the last guy we'll talk about for the tight ends. Tight end 17. He had 3 catches. 3 catches is the most he's had in any given game. He also had 0 points last game. 5 targets is the most targets he's had in any game so far. I am also dropping Kyle Pitts, and it's just simply because of the fact that we've seen it for 4 years now, man. This isn't just a this year thing. Yes, he probably will have 25-point game maybe twice with Kirk Cousins this season because he's going to catch 2 touchdown passes. And somebody may have started him. He may just be sitting and rotting in waivers. But I'm not going to wait for that because Kyle Pitts has never been a proven talent like Mark Andrews. Kyle Pitts was a proven talent in college, and he's never done shit in the pros. 1,000 receiving yards, I get that. But 1,000 receiving yards can be manufactured if you're just getting the volume. And that's something that after that one season, he has never seen, not even remotely close, to the point where he gets 0 points consistently. So I'm dropping Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's the history. Darnell Mooney's the only guy in this receiving core that's kind of doing decent. Drake London, maybe. I'm not sure how he's doing, actually. I don't have any stock in that. But, nothing to like about Kyle Pitts and different from Mark Andrews. So I'm with you. He is droppable for me as well.
That is it, man. That's the stay calm or sound the alarm. That was a lot of players, but it's week 4. It's the pivot point. Again, if you're 0-4, 1-3, you don't have time to wait and continue to trot out these guys that are just not going to produce. Whether they turn it around or not just can't be your worry anymore because you don't have time to wait. So definitely shoot us any more questions. If you have players that we didn't discuss, we're happy to discuss them with you off the podcast. So real quick, shove it. Let's go through the waiver wire watch list for the week. There's 5 teams on buys. The bye weeks have officially started, and they're big teams. The Lions are on bye. The Eagles are on bye. The Titans and the Chargers are on bye. So Lots of big name running backs are on buys. This week for quarterbacks, we have Sam Darnold continues to be a streaming option. 4 weeks in a row of great production. The only quarterback, I believe, in the NFL that's thrown for 2 touchdown passes in every game. Leads the NFL right now with 11 touchdown passes, I believe.
Wow.
Next closest, Baker Mayfield with only 8. So Sam Darnold is almost lapping the field right now, sitting as a free agent. Go out and grab him. Maybe don't start him this week personally because he takes on the Jets. They have one of the best defenses in football. And then the Vikings are in a bye. But he is somebody that, again, if you were a Mahomes, a Richardson, one of those guys, big names, underproducing, you need to stash these guys. Sam Darnold is one of those guys. We talk about him all the time. Baker Mayfield's another guy. He's still not rostered enough, and he's continuing to produce. He still has that, like, rushing ability with him where it's not linear. It's not like a Lamar Jackson, but he can get it done. And, again, his production is consistent, something that these big names are not providing. Justin Fields, he's also added on here simply because he's still only rostered in 42% of leagues. That is crazy.
Insane.
He is insane. You should roster this man. He is a fantasy god. He has been for years now. Despite what you think about him as a quarterback, he is what you want in fantasy football. And again, it's a year where quarterbacks are shit. Like, they're absolute shit. So you are trying to get players that you can find production in. Justin Fields last week, 32 fantasy points? So there's no world where this man should not be rostered on a team. Any other quarterbacks? Deep target. Geno Smith's always one that's out there.
Yeah, you can do Geno Smith.
Yeah, he's another one that's out there. But running backs are big this week, Shovit. We had Jonathan Taylor go out with a ankle injury. Some thought it was a high ankle injury. Looks like it's low, mild sprain. So there's no timetable on it yet. High ankle, we know, usually is 3 to 4 weeks. That means enter Trey Sermon, who is the direct backup. If it's still only 1 week, do you value Trey Sermon as your number 1 waiver pick, or the likes of Kareem Hunt, who is now seemingly taking over as the running back there? Keep in mind, CEH comes back this week. Keep in mind, Carson still got the start, but it's only after he fumbled that Kareem Hunt took over most of the carries. So there is still some uncertainty there. But if you're picking one guy in waivers, specifically running backs, because now we're in a bye week situation, Trey Sermon, Kareem Hunt, Justice Hill is still out there, basically the best receiver that the Ravens have. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I mentioned, and then Chase Brown, the guy that, got all that hype, and he's finally seeing that split production. 3 rushing touchdowns by the Bengals every week doesn't seem likely. But again, every week Chase Brown looks better than Zach Moss.
Yeah, I think long term, if you're trying to scope out who to get, you got to either go with Kareem Hunt or Chase Brown, right? Kareem Hunt, it's just not looking like Steele is going to be that, it's not going to take over that backfield. And there's the other guy who I'm drawing, Samaje Perine. Perine, like passing downs. But Kareem Hunt looks like he can definitely take over this backfield. Yes, there's CEH, but I like this. I like my chances with that. And then Chase Brown as well, man. You're seeing red zone opportunities for Chase Brown, which is huge, right? So that's you gotta like that. But if you're in a week where you're like, I don't have any running backs and I gotta go with someone for the next week, then I do like Trey Sermon either also, right? So depends on how your team is made up. But if no Jonathan Taylor, then full send Trey Sermon. So I guess I would do that in that order. Longevity, Kareem Hunt and Chase Brown. Short term, Trey Sermon.
Yep, I'm with you exactly. Like, if you need 1 week and Jonathan Taylor's for sure out, you get Trey Sermon, number 1 starter on the team. Kareem Hunt, we still don't know the kinks of the situation. Like, we don't have that ironed out. CH could come back and totally be the guy. Let's not forget Kareem Hunt last year had 9 touchdowns with the Browns, but he was like running it for 3 a clip. So he's old, but he knows the offense. He's got familiarity there. So that's why you give the nudge to him. Receivers, man, Dontayvion Wicks has become a thing. Christian Watson is hurt now. And Dontayvion Wicks saw hella targets. And
2
we
touchdowns.
know that offense, 2 targets, he had 2 touchdowns. I think he had 2 or 3 passes dropped. So he could have had an even bigger day. Dontayvion Wicks, to me, probably becomes the number 1 waiver or wire pickup if you're looking for a wide receiver or a flex play. Obviously, if it's not directly a running back. You also have the likes of Josh Downs, Wandale Robinson, Xavier Legette. Do you have any information you want or thoughts you want to add on to these guys?
I mean, all of those guys are good options, right? Wandale Robinson targets, Josh Downs targets and efficiency. Like, they're feeding him the ball in all aspects. Like, he's the other Michael Pittman to the team. And even with Michael Pittman, he's getting the targets, the touchdowns, opportunities. And then Xavier Legette is as good as Andy Dalton is. Andy Dalton's on fire. So honestly, like, you're looking at your waiver list and you can't pick this first guy, Dontayvion Wicks. I'm okay with any of the other options.
Yeah, I like Josh Downs a lot, especially if Flacco plays. We know Flacco can
yeah.
support receivers and at least complete passes. Full PPR, these guys become really, really interesting. The Downs, the Robinsons, the guys that are going to catch a bunch of underneath passes, maybe not get you a bunch of yards. Legette obviously has tremendous upside as a rookie. The tight ends show it. Tucker Kraft, you mentioned it. He's taken over Luke Musgrave. Luke Musgrave is an afterthought. Tucker Kraft, a guy drafted one round after Luke Musgrave in the same year, has taken over the starting spot because he's also a really, really good blocker. So Tucker Kraft becomes interesting. There is no Watson, but you have to think about the mouths to feed because that is a mouths to feed type offense. Do you like Tucker Kraft right now? Like what you said, you would start him over Mark Andrews, correct?
Yeah, that last game is very hard to judge. He's a guy that I would try to go out and see if I can get. Like, I don't know if I put a waiver claim for Tucker Kraft, right? That game with Minnesota, you just have to keep airing it out. And he dove for that touchdown to get that touchdown. You know, it was one of those like crazy things. And so I don't know if that can be repeatable on a week-to-week basis, but he's always been like kind of smarter than Musgrave, right? Like Musgrave's like not getting his routes right. And so they have more trust in Tucker Kraft. So outlook in the future, I think Tucker Kraft, yes, better than Mark Andrews to answer your question. So I would go out and see if I can get him. Waiver maybe, or just kind of pick up.
Yeah, I would say maybe pick up after waivers. And then Pat Freiermuth already mentioned it.
Right.
He catches a touchdown this week and is automatically pole vaulted into tight end 5 for the season. So that's how shitty the landscape of tight ends are. But that is it, man. That's waiver wires. It was a makeshift week with a makeshift episode. We're not going to record tomorrow. We have a wedding. We have to celebrate for the rest of the week. So good luck to you if you, again, are 0-4, 1-3. The season is not over. Don't fret yet. Hopefully we can turn that ship around. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you're watching. If you're listening, you can find us everywhere you get your podcasts. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, socials. I'm Sweetcar. That's my Twitter. That's Shobit and his Twitter. We are the only playbook. Have a fantastic week, everyone. See you guys.